I wonder if that's mine. Did you push that? It might be mine.
Yeah. That was like perfectly timed.
Have we started yet?
We've started, but there are no views right now.
Okay.
It's a great alarm.
It works.
I am so embarrassed. I thought I turned it off.
Only way is out.
Oh, we have two viewers. Hello.
Are they on camera?
Thank you.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. No.
That's fine.
Okay. This is hard. Somebody's got it.
Whenever you all are ready, and I'm a Periscope promoting.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Nadia Valenza, and I will be attending University of Maryland, Baltimore County in the fall of this year. Good evening. My name is Joyce Lynn Danson. I'm an IB senior here at Parkville High School, and I will be attending Drexel University in the fall.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Nance. I'm a former college counselor and now an independent counselor.
Hi, everybody. My name is Shannon Gundy, and I'm the Director of Undergraduate Admissions at the University of Maryland, College Park.
Good evening, my name is Calvin Wise, Senior Associate Director of Admissions at Johns Hopkins University.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rochelle Granadell, and I'm the University Relations Administrator at the International Baccalaureate. Well, we have some questions for you all to hope to give some answers to. Just something simple. Do IB students come more equipped? I guess I'm happy to start the conversation. When we're looking for students to be admitted to the university, we're looking for students that challenge themselves by taking the most competitive courses that are available to them. One of the things that we're pretty certain of is when we are evaluating applications from students that have chosen to be enrolled in IB courses, we know that those are students that are very serious about their education, students that have chosen to take courses that are very, very challenging. So automatically, we're looking at those students sort of favorably, saying, yes, we know that this is someone who's really taking their education very seriously, and we automatically start to think that, yes, these students are going to be prepared for the rigors of the courses that we have at the University of Maryland.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of really excelling in those courses, and there's also kind of an underlying theme that students that pursue that rigorous academics, they just kind of have this intellectual curiosity that is really helpful to them, or is something that we look for our students, because they're going to come and they're going to take advantage of the opportunities that we have inside and outside the classroom. So not just about the success, but that students are in the IB program just in general, and also those that are seeking a diploma. That's an extra kind of level of rigor and intellectual curiosity that I think really goes well for students when they get on the campus.
Well, I'll add to the conversation from the perspective of a former IB graduate. I graduated from Parkdale here in 2009 with my diploma, and in terms of being equipped for university studies, I think I was well equipped. One of the biggest things I think IB prepared me for was just being able to manage my time and being able to write an essay. Part of the IB diploma program is where we have to write a 4,000-word extended essay on a topic of our choice. And one of the greatest things that I enjoyed was being able to assert my multiculturalism. I'm half Trinidadian, half Haitian, and half American. Well, triculturalism. And so being able to kind of evoke my cultural identity through my extended essay I wrote on Haitian immigration to Florida and the history of that. And so being able to kind of translate that experience onto the university setting, being able to kind of take my interest and let that shine in different university studies, in my different courses, was one of the things that definitely equipped me for college. And I think universities value that curiosity, that being able to not just be consumers of knowledge, but producers of knowledge, and not just be a mirror letting it bounce off of you, but taking it and letting it synthesize, and then not regurgitating, but creating something new. And colleges and universities look at that, like, what's the value added that a student can bring to my campus, and what can they contribute to the larger academic community? And I think IB students definitely are able to bring that aspect as well. So that's one way that college definitely equipped me for college. And I can talk more and more and more, as you can see, but I'll stop and let everybody else get their perspective.
So one of the things that's most important about the college process is that I always like to say it's not about past performance, but about future potential. What an IB education allows the colleges to do is to look at not just how you did, but to project forward how you will do. And this is most important as students make the transition from being a high school student to a college student. With a solid and rigorous background in IB, they can project that you have the background to do the kind of work and to be successful in a college setting.
Well, what are some other things that stand out besides academic rigor that IB students bring to the table?
So one of the things that I think stands out well is that IB can be overwhelming. And we know that students fall down a lot, and that's okay. The same thing happens in college, but what we care about is not that you've fallen down or will fall down many times, but how quickly you get up and how much you learn once you've gotten up. So we know that because of the overwhelming nature that students can feel initially, learning to deal with that kind of pressure, learning to prioritize, learning what's important, learning how to learn, which most students don't get until they're in college. In high school, many times students read the book and want to tell you what the book was about. In college, we want you to read many books and then tell us what you think. And so the IB education is the first very important step in the learning how you think. So we know that it tends to put students on the right path of how to be thought leaders and how to be thinkers, not just how to regurgitate the information.
I think you did a really good job sort of summarizing the things that are important. When we're looking for students to be admitted to the university, the very first pass that we take in evaluating students is determining whether we think they've already built the foundation that's needed for them to be successful so that they can build on that when they're in a college or university. And most high school curricula are able to help students do that if they take the courses and they perform well in those courses. What IB does beyond that is help us to know that in addition to that foundation of knowledge, that students have already been challenged academically, that students are willing to go beyond the very base level of things that are required of them, that students are going to take advantage of things outside of the norm. Other things that are important is that students have a very broad exposure to things that are different than they are. You know, there's a multicultural aspect, there's a world perspective that comes as a part of IB that students don't necessarily get when they're enrolled in other types of courses, and that's something that we're looking for. We're looking for students that are not only going to come and sort of soak up all the things that we have to offer at a school like the University of Maryland, but students that are going to contribute something to the university, students that are going to challenge other students to think differently than they may have when they sit in the classroom, students that are used to engaging in conversations with their instructors and faculty members and professors so that the conversation is much more robust and that they're even challenging the faculty members to think differently. And our experience has been that students who are coming from an IB curriculum are more comfortable in doing that in some respects.
The other thing that I'll add is, we're reviewing students. We're looking for students that are going to be a good fit and are seeking out universities that are going to be a good fit for them. And I think that, from a Hopkins perspective, we're a research institution, and when students do the extended essay, that's research, right? So being able to connect research opportunities off at our campus to their experience with the extended essay is pretty cool. Or, we're also, pretty liberal arts in our academic philosophy, exposing students to broad academic areas, being able to connect the curriculum you had in high school that was very similar to that, having that broad exposure, really connecting the dots, fits in well with the academic philosophy on our campus. So, I think after you take the step of you're an academic and competitive student, and you want to connect on a deeper level to the philosophy of an institution, you can find schools that kind of match that, and Hopkins is one of those. And oftentimes when I talk to students who are Ivy students and are looking at Hopkins, they find some of those similarities, and they're able to really articulate that and talk about why they're a good fit for our institution.
I'll kind of build on what Brian said. It's not about falling down, but how you get up. And I think one of the things that IB really teaches you in that university side is the resiliency that is cultivated in IB students. And so oftentimes I hear students say, well, how will the university feel if I get a C in my IB course or a B? And I think universities understand the rigor of the course, and they understand the content material and how you're able to assert your knowledge in that area, and they understand that it's not like an easy art course or it's not an easy band course, and so they understand that you're being resilient within that course. And the same thing happens in university settings. Oftentimes you don't always get those straight A's, but it's how you're able to use that knowledge to add to the community, because once you graduate from the university, the GPAs and the grade letters don't really have as much significance in terms of what's the knowledge that you're going to be bringing to a potential employer. Can you demonstrate those critical thinking skills that you were learning in all of your courses? And so I think that resiliency part is one of the character traits that IB really helps students to really nurture in university and once they graduate as well into the workforce.
If students do not get the full diploma, do you think that puts them at a disadvantage?
I think that's going to vary from school to school. I mean, one of the things that I think is an important part of the college search and the college admission process is having conversations with folks like me who can tell you what we are looking for in our individual review processes. For the University of Maryland, yes, we'd like to see that students are challenging themselves by earning the full IB diploma, but that's not necessarily a requirement for admission. In our process, we're looking to see that students have chosen academically challenging courses and have done well in those courses. So for us, yes, we'd like to see that you're challenging yourself as much as you can, but if you are not earning the full IB diploma, that absolutely does not mean that we're not going to be excited about receiving your application and potentially offering you admission.
I absolutely agree. I think that you want to take appropriate academic risk, but I think students that are doing a full diploma, it does show that kind of added level of rigor and that pursuit of excellence in that way. So we do like to see that, but I don't think we talk too much about this. There is also a balance here, right? Where you need to have that conversation within your family and your counselor. While we want all students to pursue the full diploma, you want to make sure that academics isn't completely consuming your life, because we're also looking for students that are going to be good community members outside the classroom as well. So getting involved in high school and finding interests or passions, throughout your years in high school is really important as well.
And I took the full diploma because while I was here at Parkville, it wasn't an option to take standalone courses. And so one of the ways that I was able to develop, to assert those passions and interests is through the community action service component of the diploma. I was an avid track athlete, and I still am. And so being able to run was one of the ways that I kind of still pursued that. I was the captain of the track team here, and even going to University of Maryland, I was the president of the track club there, which I didn't mention. I went to University of Maryland College Park. Go Terps. I see you, Esmeralda. So yeah, I think in terms of the full diploma course papers, again, it's really having serious conversations between your family and with yourself, too, looking yourself in the mirror and seeing, am I willing to put forth this work to complete this full diploma program.
Thank you for all your responses. Are there any scholarship opportunities for IB students, and what are your policies in accepting IB credits?
The University of Maryland doesn't offer scholarships that are specific to IB students. However, all students who apply for admission to the university by our November 1st priority deadline are automatically considered for any merit scholarships that we offer at the university. And the students who challenge themselves and have done well, and that's a really important component, when they challenge themselves and done well academically, are certainly going to position themselves better for consideration for merit scholarships than those who haven't challenged themselves in the same way. In terms of IB credit, we do offer credit for IB courses. It works much in the same way that it does for AP courses at the University of Maryland. And if students are interested in learning what kinds of credits they can earn at the University of Maryland for their IB courses, there's a chart that's available, readily available on our website, where they can look and see if they earn certain scores, then these are the number of credits that the university will grant to them, and these are the courses that they can get credit for.
Yeah, we don't have any IB-specific scholarships. The majority of our financial aid is need-based financial aid. It's based on the family's ability to pay, and not necessarily on academic merit. Now, when it comes to the IB receiving credits, we have a table as well, and this kind of general rule of thumb is typically 6 and 7s on higher level exams. We also currently don't limit how many credits students can come in with, so oftentimes I do see students who come in with a semester or a year's worth of credits where sometimes they're graduating early if that's what they want to do, but oftentimes it opens up some flexibility in the curriculum for them to double major or go abroad and do a language immersion and not take any classes for their major or something like that. But it does create a little more flexibility for students because they have those credits coming.
I'll add a little bit to that. So I did get the full diploma as well. So I could have gone to either Morgan or Towson or a different school to enter in as a sophomore, and I chose to go to the University of Maryland, and I entered in as a freshman. And I think a lot of times our research shows that students who do get the full diploma oftentimes don't, as Calvin mentioned, take that first year off. Some do, but oftentimes IB students are the ambitious ones. They want to travel and study abroad, and they want to double major. And so, so when thinking about in terms of credits and advanced standing, that's definitely something to consider within your family context. But also keeping in mind, credits aren't the end of the world, just to be frank. Because the skills that you're really cultivating in the IB program, they go beyond credits, and they go beyond just getting into sophomore level standing, because it will translate into being able to work at a job where you're able to communicate with your colleagues better. And it goes, the lifelong learning aspect of the IB diploma program is something that I really would encourage parents and students to take away from this whole entire conversation. Because we get so bogged down with the whole credits idea, and the IB program, we don't want to limit it to that, because it's really a transformative program.
And since I'm not representing any school, I'm going to give a very general response to both students and parents. And I think the first piece is you have to remember that this is probably 3 different processes all going on concurrent, and you can't necessarily mix them up. The first one is fit match for finding the school that is perfect for you. When you begin this process, you should not worry about the cost of college, because the only way to know how much it costs is you've applied, you've been admitted, you've received a financial aid package. So sticker price doesn't mean anything, is what you're paying in the end. The second component is that of financial aid, which is far more dependent on your parents' situation and how quickly they fill out their paperwork, and where you as a student look internally at a school and externally to apply. And then the third piece is, once I've been admitted, once I've gotten financial aid, what kind of advanced standing will I get for these classes? So the great news here is that with a full IB diploma and doing well, you will first of all put yourself in a great position to get admitted. If that school offers merit-based, you put yourself in a great position to garner that. You also put yourself in a position to go out and get outside scholarships that are based on academics. And the third component is you will put yourself in a good position if you do soundly on your test to get advanced standing. So just remember those are kind of 3 different areas, and to make sure that while you're doing them all at the same time, you're keeping each one in their individual lane.
So why the IB program over other programs? What makes it IB so special in the college or college?
What I think makes IB really special is that it is a coordinated program designed to maximize learning all the way around. Other programs have standalone classes that you can take individually. This is one that pulls it all together in a realistic learning way. There's a Latin word for it called praxis, which is theory combined with practical application. So you're getting a very deliberate balance. My favorite course is theory of knowledge, because it means that you are going to pull every little bit together. You will have had to think about it, that a scientific method could be applied to English literature, and that we get to see the full growth of the student from beginning to end.
One of the things that we're looking for overall is students that have taken advantage of the opportunities that are available to them. So we're looking at students within their own individual context. Where it's the case that students have the opportunity to take IB courses, and that's not something that happens across the board, but where students have that opportunity and they've chosen to do that, it says something to us about who that student is, how they value their education, and even about how they're going to approach their experience once they're on the college level. So we certainly aren't going to, say we're not going to offer admission to students if they haven't chosen to take the IB curriculum, because that's not something that everyone can do. But when students have done that, it does distinguish them from other students who may have had the same opportunity and chosen not to do that.
So many things I could say makes the IB special, but as I mentioned before, I really think my favorite is just the ability to grow. You watch yourself grow. I know my parents watch me grow, and you're not the same man or woman. So I definitely think you grow into womanhood and manhood through the IB program, and you're able to kind of find yourself in some ways. You develop what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and you're able to make an intentional effort to work on them. And again, that goes back to the beauty of the diploma program, because you're challenged in 6 different subject areas. And you're not just picking your strongest suit, but you're challenging yourself. And I'm sure all University around John Hopkins can say they appreciate that, because you're going outside of your comfort zone, and not a lot of students can say they're doing that because they just favor one subject or the other. So I think what makes it special is that you're able to really challenge yourself on that holistic framework.
What do you recommend to students trying to pay for college loan-wise?
I'll go last.
Can you repeat the question? I want to make sure that I understand it exactly, just in terms of loans. And one of the things that I think students' families make the mistake of doing is not really investigating or understanding or making conscious decisions about how they are going to pay for college prior to getting in the college admissions process. Families who know that college is the goal that they are aspiring to need to have conversations very, very early on, as soon as you possibly can, about paying for college. The reality is that there is some money available, but funds are limited. It's not a bottomless pot of money that's available to students who want to continue their education. Our expectation is that you are going to contribute something toward the cost of your education, even if you are a financially needy family and we're offering as much assistance as we possibly can. Our theory is that if you're helping to pay for it, you're much more vested in your own success academically, and we want you to graduate. It pains me, though, that I often have families come into my office at this time of year. Students have until May 1st to confirm their intention to enroll, and families are sitting in my office or on the phone or sending me email because they don't know how they're going to pay for it, because they haven't had conversations about it. I think people need to understand that there is an expectation that you will have loans. Most people are going to have loans at the end of their graduation time. Not everybody, but most will. And, you know, our expectation is that that's a manageable amount. We don't expect you to finance your entire education through loans, but we do expect that you will take out some loans and that you will be financially vested in your education at the university.
Yeah, I mean, it is an investment in your future, and you know, we about a third of the students who receive or qualify for financial aid options will receive a no loan package. We have these need kind of merit scholarship hybrids, but you know, there are students that Hopkins who are taking out student loans, and I think that you know, an appropriate amount is probably about as much as maybe a new car, like a decent new car, right? $25,000 maybe for all 4 years, which I think is reasonable. And you know, I think people take a loan out when you get a car, and it's probably the worst investment you'll ever have because it appreciates in value. But we do it day in, day out. But people kick and scream when it comes to taking out some loans for college, which the numbers, the data suggest that you're going to make so much more over your lifetime than you just had a high school diploma. So I think it does pay for itself. I'm in a lot of conversations where people are asking, is it worth it? Absolutely, it's worth it. But there definitely is a tolerance there where you want to think about, what is too much, right? Or you want to think about, be realistic with, what you want to do as a career too, as well, and understanding what your lifetime earnings might be in that, and you don't want to, burden yourself too much by taking on way too much debt. So there's definitely a line there. You want to allow yourself enough time during the process to have conversations about that. All colleges have net price calculators on their website. It's a tool that you can use to see, it estimates a financial aid package, and typically they're pretty close, so you can go ahead and go on colleges' websites and look into that. But you definitely want to start doing that evaluation to see kind of what range are you talking about. And then, the financial fit, as Mr. Nance was saying, is definitely part of it. So.
I just want to add one thing. Loans, you think of loans as just a really scary word until you actually just start doing the research and start investigating. And one of my colleagues always would say that an education loan is the best type of loan that you can take out, because really nobody can take away your education. As Calvin mentioned, your car depreciates in value, but the knowledge that you really gain, it sounds cheesy, but it's so true. I mean, you think about it, nobody can really, they can lock you up, whatever, and you can still have your education. And so I definitely think it's not to be afraid of it, but to go into it confidently and knowing your options early is what I think all of us are alluding to, and being hip, as we all say, to what's going on, and not just going in kind of like, well, I didn't know. That's, in this day and age with the internet at your fingertips, it's really no longer an excuse not to just say you aren't aware. And so I'd be very frank and transparent because I was, I said I didn't know. And I think a lot of students and parents are just afraid of just asking questions because of the response that we get. We all tend to be afraid of asking questions, but you'll never know unless you ask and do the research. So I encourage you all to just ask and do research.
And if I can add one more thing about financing the college education, it's an area that people, as Michelle said, people are sort of afraid to venture into. Start having conversations. In your home, start having conversations about what the expectation is and who is going to assume the responsibility for that. Is it the expectation that the student is going to pay all or a portion of whatever the cost is? Is there an expectation that the parents are going to pay? And what is the amount that parents are going to pay toward that? Waiting until the last minute and leaving those kinds of unpleasant surprises is really a difficult situation to put students in. Have conversations about what you're willing to do and how much you're willing to put on the table in order to finance the college education before students get to the point where their heart is set on attending a specific institution that may be financially out of reach.
Well, my colleagues did a great job. I'm just going to follow up on what Mr. Wise said. I think $25K is probably a good place to draw a line in the sand. I'm not saying that more than that you should not go, but you should understand the commitment. Your parents should also understand what an unsubsidized loan means, or a Parent Plus loan, and that, that affects their bottom line immediately. So you have to have these conversations as graduate school in the future immediately. So then it's far more of a comprehensive question, and what's important to you as a family. But I also agree that students should have some skin in the game, because you care far more about something that you paid for than you completely ever get for free.
What advice do you have for students who do not know about the college process due to being first-generation college students?
Okay, sit back. I'm going to be here for about an hour. What I think you should know as a first-gen student is that your knowledge base is probably no less than that of a student who is fifth-generation Harvard. This process changes so much and so often that those folks whose parents went to college, this is a completely different process. What I tend to find about first-gen students and their parents is they have no shame to asking questions, which is a great thing. And we're able and capable to answer those, as opposed to the parents or the family says, well, we understand that, we've done that before, and then get to the bitter end and realize they've missed important dates, important activities, or they've placed an emphasis in place where it shouldn't be. The first thing is you must start this early. As early as I'd say the 10th grade. And in the 10th grade, I don't want you worrying about where you're going to go to college. I want you obsessing about your grades. The better your grades are, the better your opportunities down the line. And then slowly over time, visiting colleges, figuring out what a letter of recommendation needs to be, thinking about what you want to study in college, not what you want to major, two different things. Thinking about those big questions, near or far, big or small, public or private, at home or on campus, those kinds of questions. If you can answer those questions fairly quickly, you've narrowed down from 5,000 colleges to somewhere around 800. Still a lot, but it's getting smaller. So, and finally, the piece that's most important is, before you begin or complete this process, you must know you. You must be willing to be honest with what you want and where you want to be. And we know that this is the first time in life we've asked you to do this. And so college is not about the outcome, because there are schools out there that only require you to be able to breathe and stand upright and you'll get admitted. So we know you can go to college, but to find the right college with the right fit, that's going to challenge you. That's also going to allow you to find community. That's going to make you feel whole, and that's going to make you graduate a better person when you walk in the door. Takes deep thought, and the only way to get out of that one is to think your way out. So start early.
One piece of advice that I'd like to offer to students that are going through the admission process, and particularly first-generation college students, is that there are people that are paid to help you. Part of my job is not just to manage the application process. A lot of people think me as the gatekeeper for the University of Maryland. Part of what I'm passionate about, part of the reason that I've chosen to spend my life doing this, is that I want people to go to college who may not have thought that college was in their future. They may not have a history of a college-going culture in their family. Those are the people that we are interested in working with. There are people at every single college across the country that will work with you, that are interested in helping you. If you're interested in learning about what it is that we're doing, we are glad to help you. Don't hesitate to reach out, make a connection, ask questions, take advantage of the resources that are available to you. That's why we're there.
Yeah, I mean, mine is just a complete follow-up of the previous two comments, and I think there's so much emphasis in our society on monetary and financial capital, and not enough on social and cultural capital. And I think, from my personal experience being a first-generation college-going student, I didn't understand how important social capital is in our society, and it really is, building your network and building a knowledge base and finding people, identifying people who can be mentors and talking to them. And if you have a question, asking them, and if they don't know the answer, maybe they'll ask somebody else. And that's really important to not only be successful in high school, to manage the college admissions process, but also when you get on a college campus, and then also when you are employed, right? They say 70% of the jobs in our society nowadays are filled through connections, right? So that social capital is so important. So, excuse me, make sure that you're always thinking about, who can I connect with, who can I talk to on the college campus, who can help me through this process. And let me use my words, let me ask questions. If I don't know something, let me find somebody who does know the answer.
And just to top that off, I think everybody's kind of echoing that you're not alone. Like, just in life, you're not alone going through anything that you're going through. Somebody, if you have a question, be 100% sure somebody else has the same exact question most of the time. And so just coming to grips with that, and then I'll use this as a segue for, again, if the IB helps to cultivate those go-getter kind of qualities, especially with first-gen students, being comfortable asking questions, being comfortable being curious and inquiring and asking and going to find that help that you need. So IB program is particularly good for first-gen students because it really grows you in that aspect.
Are your individual schools flexible with tuition payments, and if so, what payment options do you offer?
The University of Maryland, I think like most schools, realize that writing a check for the full amount of tuition, no board books and fees, is outside the realm of possibility for a whole lot of families. So there are a number of payment plans that are available. The thing that is important to know is investigate early. If you're interested in participating in a payment plan, like for the University of Maryland in particular, you can have an 8-month payment plan or a 10-month payment plan, but you have to get in early. If you wait until it's time for tuition to be due, you're already behind a couple of months in what you could have been doing with the tuition payment plan. So there are lots of options that are available. The thing, again, that's important is to reach out to the individual school, talk to the people who have the information early enough so that you can take advantage of whatever the resources are that are available to you.
Agreed. Just like there are admissions counselors, there's financial aid counselors, and they're to help you and figure out what makes the most sense for your family. So you want to have those conversations with them to see if the payment plan is the way to go, or what other alternative options are there.
Does your school have a specific loan payment company that they recommend?
The University of Maryland finances its own loans and payment plans.
Yeah, I don't think that we have one that's in particular that we have a partnership with or anything that we can kind of
That's actually a really good question. I think it was somewhere around 2004, 2005, quite a few very prestigious schools got in trouble by having preferred lenders. And as a result, most schools now will say, here's some companies we've worked with. We will not choose one over the other. It's up to you. So any school that says this is our preferred lender should give you pause and ask follow-on questions like why and how does this benefit me, not how this benefits you as a school.
We have a couple more questions. And you guys touched on it a bit. Well, in what ways does IB really aid in getting into some of the top tier schools like Johns Hopkins and University of Maryland?
One of the things that I sort of touched on earlier is that we have a holistic application review. It's the case that when we're reviewing students for admission, we're not just looking at a grade point average and an SAT score and saying yes or no. And a lot of people assume that that's the case because of the size of the University of Maryland, and that's a myth that I really want to dispel. We have a holistic application review, which means that we're looking at everything. When we're looking to see how students have done academically, we're not just looking at the grade point average. In fact, that number by itself doesn't tell me anything at all about a student. In order for me to understand how a student has performed and how they've challenged themselves, I have to actually read the transcript. So I'm looking at each individual course, the level of difficulty of the course, and the grade that the student has then earned in that course. I'm looking at trends in their grades. I'm looking to see what was available to them and how they chose to take advantage of what was available to them. When I'm looking at those kinds of factors, the fact that a student has participated in an IB program is something that I see. You know, if you're just looking at an overall grade point average, you don't know that. You don't know the kinds of classes that students have had to take in order to earn those grades. So when you're looking at a school that has a holistic review process at the University of Maryland, the fact that a student has chosen to enroll in courses that we deem very competitive is something that's certainly going to work in their favor.
I would also encourage, maybe this is something that the parents can help students do, is ask them to reflect about their experience, right? I think a lot of times we ask students questions about the future. Where are you going to college? Where are you going to be when you grow up? And not enough about what's going on in the day-to-day and, how those experiences have really shaped and influenced them. And I think as we look at the admissions process, and as Mr. Nance was saying about trying to predict future potential, a lot of that is kind of in some of those pieces where I care less about necessarily what you're doing and kind of why you chose to do that and what you got out of that and how you got involved in those things. And that's curriculum, but also your involvements, right? Those are things that are going to transfer to a college campus other than besides just an A in a specific course. So think about what you're getting out of that. We put a lot of emphasis on getting into college. I think we forgot what this whole process is about. It's about a student's development, personal development. And so you really want to invest in that personal development. You should be doing these things because it's to help yourself and not necessarily help you to get into a specific school, because I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of things that you control and there's a ton of things that you don't control about the selective admissions process. If you go around driving yourself crazy about getting into this school, that school, and the other school, there is no formula. I get that question all the time. Well, if I do this and that, and if people try to strategize, it's a selective process at all these schools. So put more of the focus back in on yourself and your own personal development, and I guarantee you'll be much happier as you go through the process.
And just from the IB context, this is the perfect place in your personal statement, any essays, interviews that you do through the college application process, expressing how your IB experience has really shaped you as an individual. And as, again, my colleagues mentioned, it's about context. So when they understand you as a person, they can separate you from the thousands of applicants that they're reviewing on a daily basis. And so bringing your IB lens to your story and telling your story, I think that's one of the biggest ways that people can learn about you when you tell your story. And throughout that story, you show your skills and you show your academic strengths and things like that. It makes it more interesting, I'm sure, for them to read than just kind of going off and saying all the things that you've done, but weaving it and, adding personality as well.
If I can just add, I was fortunate enough for many years to read college applications at 5 different schools, many of them selective, and I can tell you every school is looking at one of 8 factors really quickly. Grades, 1, 2, what your grades mean, rigor, course selection, number 3, your essay, number 4, your letters of recommendation, number 5, your extracurriculars. Number 6, maybe an interview if they have one. And 7, I said 8, really 7. Test scores, I left that one out. And then finally, if you require an audition or any of those things. The order I gave them to you is probably the order that every school looks at first. Your grades and what your grades mean. If you say you want to be a medical doctor, and I look at your transcript, and you have all A's, but it's in finger painting and underwater basket weaving, I don't know that you necessarily have made the correlation. If I look, you say you want to be a doctor, and I see that you have an IB full curriculum, and you've taken set maths and sciences, that tells me that there's the connection that has been made.
I'll just add one thing. I think we kind of all alluded to just that backwards planning kind of mindset. So if you are interested in pursuing biology or medicine or things like that, before entering the IB program, really taking a look at that beforehand and seeing how the alignment works. Will I need to take AP calculus or some additional math or science course in order to supplement your degree pathway, because you don't want to get into college and realize that you hadn't met the requirements And that could have been avoided if you kind of just thinking with the end in mind. I know it's difficult really not to know what you're going to do in college. I was undecided for 2 years at Maryland, so, but just keeping that in mind, if you really have a specific career interest, really thoughtfully going through that process beforehand.
These are questions from Google Forms submitted by people of Johns Hopkins. As a student of JHU CTY, is it easier for a Center for Talented Youth student to get into Johns Hopkins, or is that not even registered as a possibility for college acceptance?
Yeah, again, and you know, there's no necessarily a formula that if I put these things together, I'll have a greater chance of getting admitted. And what I tell students that are doing the CTY or any summer program is that I credit you because you did a program that you didn't have to do, right? And I think as we talk about intellectual curiosity and academic excellence and trying to find those students who possess those things, students who engage in those summer programs like CTY, that's an example of them showcasing that. And so I think that by doing that program, there's definitely benefits there. Not to say that that's kind of an angle to get into Hopkins. It's definitely not true that that's the one way to kind of get in. But by doing that program, it tells us something about the student. But I'll go back to a comment that I've said previously. Again, why did you do that program? What did you get out of that program? How did you get involved? Those are things that students should be thinking about because that's how that can be able to connect those pieces to your experience on our campus. And that's just the conversation that we really had. Not that a student did it, but when they talk about how that's helped them develop their intellectual curiosity or how that's helped them discover an interest in a specific area, that's really exciting for us.
As someone who worked for CTY, I can tell you unequivocally, if you're in it for the right reasons, I will count some. Because it will help to tell your story. If you use CTY, as some students have, thinking that it is the secret back door, there are no back doors.
There was another question submitted, and I think this is tailored toward Ms. Berryville, and it says, how can 7th and 8th graders prepare for the active program?
I'm the expert.
Well, I didn't have Ms. Swift as my coordinator when she was in 7th and 8th grade, so I didn't know about it back then. So I can commend her for doing awesome work going to the middle schools and promoting that among the middle school parents and students. But when I was in 7th and 8th grade, if I did know about it, I guess one of the things that I would suggest is your peer group. Finding that, I know it's a weird time, it's a weird age, but I think really just having a good peer group that they're on the same path as you, because that really starts to form who you are. Who you hang out with is a real reflection of the things that you do and the things that you want to strive for in your further studies. So if you're really around academically inclined students, I think that would be a good indicator of preparation for the IB program. And again, I'll go back to my comment of what courses are you taking in 7th and 8th grade in order to prepare you. Are in honors courses? Are you talented and gifted? So that would be a standout for as you enter Parkdale or any other high school. Ms. Swift and other teachers can see that you've already exhibited this high-level learning and you want to start your education. And so you'll be well prepared to kind of transition into the program, the 11th grade.
So I do some work with middle schoolers and their parents, and I also have a middle school daughter who I'm sure I embarrass every day, but that's another story. So I think there's a couple of things that you really have to focus in, probably in the 6th or 7th grade. You have to start thinking about things like indicators of success and predictors of success. An indicator we know is that students who miss very few days are more likely to do better in school. Students who take a full load of academic courses will more likely be ready. Predictors, students who get a B or better in math and science courses are more likely to take advanced work later on. We also know that there's a benchmark If you talk to any college admissions person, they will tell you that one of the big lines of demarcation is whether or not you were able to take calculus by the 12th grade. And if you haven't taken Algebra 1 by the 8th grade, chances are you won't take calculus by the 12th. So you need to have that planning then. And then we talked about earlier knowing yourself. How do you learn? Are you a tactile type of person? You need to listen. How do you really study? Even though you say you study with music and all this other stuff, is that really how you're getting things done? So beginning the process of knowing who you are and beginning the process for parents to know whether or not a middle school will put their son or daughter in that place, and if not, are there summer courses that they can take to get them online? This requires a lot of backward planning. So if you're going to take calculus or higher learning math, then we need you to have had algebra in the 8th grade. So absolutely, these conversations need to begin no later than the 7th grade.
Another question is, what should your child be doing at 7th grade to get ready for college?
Absolutely nothing other than trying to do well in school. I just spent a week in South Carolina, and to my horror, the University of South Carolina is sending football accept letters to 8th graders. To 8th graders. Granted, that young man was 6'3" in the 8th grade. You know, 8th grade, exactly. I'm like, why that grown man in my son's class? But there's nothing that you should be doing other than just trying to learn. And I think what happens in students' minds, my own son, who is 10, was struggling with a question, and he had a meltdown, and he said, I can't get this math question right, and I'm never going to go to college that I want. I'm like, what in the world? So what is happening is students are hearing selectively about the anxiety of brothers and sisters and cousins and parents and taking it to their own logical conclusion. And right now, all we need you to do is be a good student. And all I need you to do is be a good student until about the 10th grade. And then we can start in earnest the actual process of college. So just ease up a little bit.
One of the things that I encourage people to do, and you sort of hit on this a little bit earlier, is realize the purpose of going to high school is not to go to college. The purpose of going to high school is to establish a very good academic foundation, learn what you are supposed to learn in high school. Challenge yourself appropriately, given your own strengths. If you are a good student in a particular subject area, challenge yourself in that subject area. Do your very best by taking advantage of what's available to you, and then look to see what schools match who you are, what your strengths are, and what it is that you want to do. If you are pursuing the process in that manner, you take so much stress out of the process.
I just want to thank all the panelists here for answering the questions thoroughly. Now we can open up to anyone in the audience who has questions who might want to ask.
That's a good sign.
Yes?
I have a quick question. So, my daughter is going into high school. She has like an IB program. She is an athlete, and I think one of the things that that she needs to understand is that you can still be athletic and be in the IB program. So I think one of the misconceptions is that you got to be this bookworm, you know, and that's the only way that you're going to be successful and go to college and things like that. And so I think she feels a little discouraged, and I keep trying to tell her that everyone did not get that letter. And so it's an honor to be able to get into that program. And being in that program doesn't mean that you can't still be a child, be an athlete, have a social life, so forth and so on. Am I off base, or is that correct?
Could you repeat the question? So, I don't know.
Yeah.
She mentioned that her daughter is a student athlete and she got acceptance in the IB program, and she thinks that her daughter, or that many students have this misconception that you cannot play sports and you have to be a bookworm instead of actually being a holistic student who can approach it in many different aspects. And to speak to that, I'm not personally a student athlete, but I have some in my audience who runs track, who's a cheerleader, and she ran track as well. But for me at least, I'm in a lot of extracurricular activities. I have a lot of past activities. I stay after school every day until like 4:35, and I still maintain my grades. And IB, many of the IB students are athletes, and they maintain their grades and they do well. They're getting accepted to great universities and pursuing higher education. So I don't think you should believe that you have to be a bookworm, because IB is not about that. IB makes you grow as a person, and I think that's one of the benefits of being in the IB program. You're not just a smart individual. You have so many talents, and that's why they have these IB learner profiles, which help you build yourself as a person, like being caring, being open-minded, being a risk taker. And your skills will be built through being in the IB program. And it's not just academic rigor, you grow personally. And I think I can speak to that for myself. And I've grown to empathize and to be open-minded and actually be able to handle my workload as well as participate in other activities. Any other questions?
Do you feel a little bit better about it?
No worries.
Sorry, I didn't put you on the spot,
But you'll make it through. Okay. Anyone have any final thoughts?
You can thank our virtual audience.
Well, thank you everyone online watching, and thank you everyone in the audience as well. We really appreciate you coming out and supporting and actually getting the information, because as you can see, not many people actually take that step to actually learn about this information and take risks to become a lifelong learner. So we appreciate you all. Final thoughts, please.
Final thoughts, use your words, which is something students struggle with. They know what they're thinking in here, but there's a disconnect between what comes out, and their favorite saying is, well, it's complicated, you know. That's why it's designed that way, think your way out. Ask for help. Especially young men, ask for help. And as fathers and parents, make sure that you instill in your sons and daughters that it's okay to ask for help. Many times they don't ask for help because they don't see us ask for help. And finally, remember, these are the best days of your life. Enjoy them to the fullest.
Relax. The whole process has been ratcheted up to be so anxiety-filled and anxiety-provoking. Realize that at this stage of the process, once you're going through the college admission process, so much of what you do is out of your control. You have no idea what we're looking for to build our classes. So much of it is not based on who you are, but what you need. And it's out of your control. Relax, do your homework, prepare, and the process will work out exactly as it's supposed to.
Yeah, I would also say that, you know, when you end up on a college campus, you belong there. Right? No matter what somebody tells you, you belong there. You know, we want you on our campus. We want you to succeed. Every student that gets admitted to our institution, it's not necessarily a conversation about ability. So, you know, you should feel comfortable as you go through this process. Along the way, you might feel like, this isn't for me, or something doesn't seem right, or it's not aligning with, you know, who I am. This is for you. There are people out there to help you. Just make sure that, as everybody says, that you know, you use your words and that you connect with people that can help.
And for IB students and parents, the program is what the result of the program and outcome is what you put into it. And so you can be just an IB student, just existing and not living in the program. And the IB is a lived program, and you get its full potential when you're living through it, when you're breathing through it. I sound like a poet, but it's true. Like if you're just, you know, going to class and not really taking advantage, especially of the TLK courses, then you're not going to receive the full benefit of the program. And so now that you've kind of gotten a full perspective from alumni and admissions officers about just the qualities and characteristics of IB students and how we all value them, just go into it with those in mind, and so that you can really take advantage of it as you're in the program.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether this was what built in. I just wanted to share a little bit more light on what IB actually means. Some people will watch that later and think what actually. I know it's International Baccalaureate and it's expensive. I know you have to do. Can you just shed a little bit more light on what IB actually means, apart from the AP?
I would prefer you answer that.
Okay, well, IB, International Baccalaureate.
Just repeat the question.
So she asked, what is IB and what is the International Baccalaureate Program? And so at high school, the high school level International Baccalaureate Program is a diploma program, and it is a international program. We're located in 4,000 schools all over the world. We span from PYP, which is the primary years, all the way up to the diploma program, which is the last 2 years of college, high school. And it really enforces students to be interdisciplinary learners. So not to just think about them as a person within their own realm of learning, but how that relates to 6 subject areas of arts, math, sciences, languages. Students have to complete a 4,000-word essay research of their own choice, as well as do community service and TOK theory of knowledge. And that's, of course, where students are questioned about knowledge. What is knowledge? What is the difference between a fact and belief? And how can you assert that knowledge? And so when you're in an IB course, it's really what is my stake as an individual within my community and within my larger society. And so the diploma program is a good preparation for university studies, as it mimics the university setting. Very well prepares students to be critical thinkers, inquirers. As Joycelyn said, part of our learner profile is where we encourage students to be risk takers, to be caring, to be compassionate, to be just a real holistic person as a part of the program, and not just rote memorization and just learning to regurgitate information. How can they just synthesize it to be a well-rounded individual? So that's the 30 seconds spiel. I have some information back on that table about the nuances of the program, and Shane's was here to also answer questions about if you want to know more about how it looks like. I'm not quite sure what school if your child attends Parkdale, but the requirements and of course offerings. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for all your remarks, all your advice, all the comments you made. And thank you everyone for being here. And we appreciate you all. And good evening.